Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the another session of the monthly virtual job fair training session for LWIA staff. We'll begin by, that we normally do, going over any updates. This time around, there are no updates to report, but I think we'll have some more to report back on for the March meeting. So we'll close this out. I do want to just kind of have a reminder because it's come up in just some emails, not necessarily anybody on this call at all, but just as a reminder to go over the virtual job fair partner guide, which has tons of resources that we'll cover in a second, but just how to access the partner guide page on Illinois WorkNet. You can either go to illinoisworknet.com/partners, or on the WorkNet homepage, you can click this partners icon up here. And that'll take you over to the partner site. And then if you scroll down to the global partner tools section and select the VJF virtual job fair guide icon, that'll open up this partner guide page that we're talking about here. And so up front, we have just a little description about this. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us with an email address provided, but you can also reach out to Daniel and myself, which I think everyone on this call has at one point or another. And we have a section on planning a virtual job fair event, which Daniel's going to talk about a little bit later this morning as a reminder. But below here, under all resources, we have partner guidance. And these are, we have a handful of articles for job seekers and employers, both for preparing for a virtual job fair and attending a virtual job fair. Just kind of more best practices, do's and don'ts, what to expect, how to prepare for it, and next steps following up after the event itself. So those are, as you're working with job seekers and employers, those customers, you can refer those customers to those articles there. And that's under the partner guidance icon here under all resources. The next tab is partner training materials and videos, which is this page here. And what we have on this page is the monthly training sessions that we've been holding, as in this case, this call here. We record these and we will upload them onto this page in a YouTube playlist. So if you are wondering about past sessions, you can check those here. We just have a summary here, the name of the session, the date, and if there's any materials that we referred to, we'll link to those, and also an outline of what was covered in the presentation description column. So those are available to you as well. The full list of resources page, if you select that, that is just has a comprehensive list of a lot of the resources we've used. Guidance, we have a link to our FAQ page that has questions and answers for job seekers, employers, and partners, just about virtual job fair. And then we also have some introductory videos and presentations tailored to job seekers. We also link to those articles that we mentioned, preparing for and attending a VJF. And the exact same for employers too, those videos, articles, and presentations that you can provide to them as a introduction. And then we also have another PowerPoint presentation for adult educators utilizing the virtual job fair platform. And then we link to the training materials and videos page there as well. But under instructions, we have instructions for partners who have access to the virtual job fair system, for employers, as well as a recording for how an employer can submit a booth. We have a short YouTube video there, along with instructions, quick start guides for job seekers and employers. And then here we link to this is another set of instructions for adding an employer booth page. I think I'll maybe move up there, but we also link to the resume writing guide, because as customers and job seekers are looking for a new job, it's crucial, as you know, to update their resumes. So we have a guide on Illinois WorkNet that they can utilize here that's full of articles that just walk them through step by step on the resume writing process. So getting prepared, to actually writing the resume, customizing it, preparing for an interview. And then we have the resume builder tools. And this links to an article that covers a lot of the features within the resume builder. We'll just touch on a few of them really quickly. That could be its own presentation, but for the sake of time, with the resume with an Illinois workNet account, users have the ability to create and build a resume. There's over 500 templates that they can use that range in experience and industry. So whether they're just getting started in an industry, or if they're very experienced to it, they can choose from templates that way, and they are industry specific too. So there's a lot of options there. They also have similarly a cover letter builder, a portfolio builder, where they can put all their documents into one portion. The self-assessment tool that kind of measures their skills, strengths, and accomplishments, just kind of seeing what industry or area that they may be interested in if they're not really sure what to pursue. Interview prep, where they can practice interview questions, they can record themselves and their answers and practice that way. As well as an elevator pitch. There's an ability to customize and create an elevator pitch and share it through the resume building tool. But to access that with a workNet account, users would just have to log into their account and select this resumes button here. And then additionally, in this guide, we have other resources that they can use for as they're customizing and building their resume. Okay, and then under legislative VJFs, these link to, for our legislative events, I know we've held several, but we have a couple. This is one of the first larger events, but this is just a summary document that showed kind of the outcomes of that event that you can check out here, that just kind of measures what the event was about, who participated, how many businesses, how many attendees, how many jobs were there, and so forth. And we have that data captured in here. And again, we have this for a couple of our legislative events, but this is just more of a reference here. VJF planning, again, that's going to be something that's covered by Daniel, but we do have a few documents listed here for that, those processes, along with a list of questions during Q&A, because I know that's come up if during an event that there's not very many questions in the chat. We do have this Word document here that we will use just to keep the conversation going during the events. And additionally, we have some social media posts and flyers that can be used. You can customize a virtual job fair flyer for your event. You can also hand out or distribute a job seeker and employer virtual job fair flyer, just a one-pager, just lets them know what it is and how to access it. So we have one for job seekers, and then we have one for employers as well. And down here, this is a weekly report that we have that we provide to the Department of Commerce and IDES, and I think a couple other state agencies as well. But this weekly report, which you can access, goes back to the start of when we were tracking the reports for the virtual job fair tool. And it just shows that, over time, it's continuously growing in terms of the number of employers participating, number of job openings, and so forth. So you can check out those events there, or the reports there. Okay, and then, and down here, this is just our schedule of the monthly partner meetings. And you can view past events here to see, the date and time and the topics that were covered there. And the final portion that I wanted to go over was the my dashboard dropdown. So from the if you have access as partners to the virtual job fair system, when you log into Illinois workNet, you can select this virtual job fair VJF icon under personal tools. And so one way that you'll know if you have access or not is during the week, we have a daily email that sends out around 9 a.m. And when that gets sent out, actually, let me pull that up here. An example of this. Bear with me one moment, folks. Okay, so if you receive this email, it'll look something like this. This will mean that you have access to the VJF system and Illinois workNet. So we have at the top employers requesting assistance with the VJF in your LWIA. This means that an employer has set up a booth and requested assistance in hosting an event. And so it'll list the employer booth name and the date in which it was added. And then we have some instructions here on how to access this, which we'll go over in a second. Additionally, we link to some instructions on how to use and navigate the dashboards that we're going to talk about in a moment. We also have a section for upcoming virtual job fair events in your LWIA. And this pulls from the virtual job fair events calendar. So when we're on that virtual job fair landing page, just above the search, we have that tab for VJF events. If you click that, that'll open this listing here that pulls from the workNet calendar, but it's filtered specifically to virtual job fair events. So if the events on this calendar are taking place in your LWIA, those will appear in this section here in your LWIA of upcoming events. Employer booths pending approval. If there are any booths that are pending review and need to be approved, they may be, you can review them here, but we do have someone on staff who reviews them on a weekly basis. This is just kind of a FYI, but no matter what, we will get those booths reviewed and approved. And then this last section here is employer booth updates. Those are just any changes that happen to any employer booths. Just more of an FYI. You don't necessarily have to do much of anything with that information. Again, just an FYI. So that's the daily email. But to access the virtual job fair tool, or the management side of things, under my dashboard, under personal tools, you'll select the VJF icon. And so this will load the booth management page here. Since I have access to everything, I'll see, Daniel and I will see all the booths. But if you were in, let's say I'm in Springfield, so I would be LWIA 20. So if you were LWIA 20 or LWIA 5, you'll only see the booths that have a physical address in your LWIA. And so you'll see the different booths here. In this table here, and you can select the status in this drop down here. Defaults to active, but you can just view all booths in your area. Archive booths, these would be booths that they're still in our system, but they're not deleted. So let's say if we had an employer who had a handful of job openings, but they've all been filled, or those job openings are just no longer available, then they would be archived. And that means that in that main search, job seekers wouldn't be able to find them because they don't have any current job openings. So we can archive them there. Upcoming would mean that the booth's been reviewed and approved, but the start date for that booth has not been reached yet. So in this case, on the 14th, this will become active, but it's kind of all squared away in the meantime. And expired, these would be booths that their end date, their public end date has passed. And so they come here. But what we do is on a weekly basis as well, we'll come through, review, check the employer booths to see if they're still hiring. and they have positions in Illinois, and if so, then we will extend that booth further out. That way, job seekers are aware that those positions are available. And then the needs reviewed section, these would just be newly submitted booths that need to be reviewed and approved. But you may have seen on this actions column when we had all these employer booths here, several buttons. This first one, booth details, this is just more of a kind of overview of the information for this employer booth. It will show kind of that high level information, the address, the website, their job postings or careers page, the number of positions they have available, the industries they're hiring in, employer contact information, point of contact, links to social media, including the managing user of that account over here as well. The date range for when the booth should be public and accessible to customers, and so forth. So then that's that first button, that booth details. This blue one in the middle, this is the employer entry form that is submitted when they create a booth. And so they'll enter all this information, but if for any reason, if you're working for the employer, if you need to come in here and change some information, you can find the employer in the table there and select that blue icon, and you'll be able to edit this information. Or if they need to add more jobs to their number, you can come in and do so here. And so we have this information here. Additionally, once the booth's been approved, they can add documents or links to the employer booth page. For the documents, they need to be, the files, they need to be PDF, Word, or Excel, and they cannot be larger than 50 megabytes. And so you can upload them that way, and then just give the document title a name, and then you can click upload file, and then you'll be good to go. And then add links too. So if there's a page on their site, HR page, or mission statement and so forth, they can just add a title to that in this field here, and then just drop a link in that field and click add. And then just to make those changes saved, to keep those changes, you'll just click the Save and Submit Employer Booth button here. And I guess the only other thing I would mention on this page is if you do need to archive the booth, and let's say in this case, this employer hired, they no longer have job openings or they've all been filled, what you would do is you would uncheck approved, check the archived box, and then click Save and Submit. And then lastly, we have the Manage Job Fairs icon here. When that's selected, that'll take the employer to this page, and this is where they can either add their own virtual job fair event. And when they do that, they just add the dates, a link to the job fair. And then after the event, they can come in and add a link to a recording there, and then just click add, and that'll show up on their booth page. But if they request assistance in hosting events, they will click this page, and it'll populate some of their information based on the account they're logged into. But then they'll just answer some basic questions. They need training on Zoom. They can select a date and time range they'd like to hold their event. For the purposes of marketing and social media, since today is the 11th, any employer who came in and requested an event, the earliest they could hold the event with Illinois WorkNet staff would be on the 25th, 2 weeks ahead of time. That way we have enough time to create the registration page, calendar, invitations, getting it into the Illinois WorkNet calendar, social media posts, just getting the word out so we can boost attendance. And then we also have time slots for when they are available to hold their event. We have a question if they are, if they would like to be part of an event with multiple employers or just their organization. And the last few questions here, target population of the event, if they accept non-English speaking employees, and if so, will they provide their own translator? And once they submit that, then a record will be created in the virtual job fair single employer dashboard. And so to access that dashboard, I can just go back to here. So in the daily email, once they make a request, the following day, you'll see the name of that employer booth and that date it was added. So to access that, you will, once you're logged into workNet, in this VJF section, you will select the dropdown and single employer VJFs. Once this loads here, we'll have a table of, I think this is one of the, this will be fixed, this thing short, I think by the end of the day. Let me just open this in a new tab so we can see it a little bit clearer. And so we'll have this table of the event requests. And in this table, we'll have the name of the employer, the request status, the submission date, the start date of when they're wanting to hold their event, post-event follow-up status, and a record of who was the last to update that entry. And similar to the employer booths page, you'll only see event requests that are in your LWIA. And so we have it open to all, but if there was a new request, you could select this event status open, you could filter it, and then see that there's an employer who has requested assistance with an event. And so you can select this entry, and then you'll see that information that they completed on the request assistance form over here on this left side here. And then to the right, you'll see the contact information of the employer. Now, if it, depending on the employer, the types of jobs that are available, you may want to follow up with that employer to see if, maybe if a virtual job fair makes sense to do. If not, if there's, a better way that you can assist them, by all means do so. We would just ask that you track that in here. You would just update the status to completed or canceled. And then you would leave a note down here. And then you just click add note. And then you could just type out, very briefly connected them with, X, Y, and Z business services, and then click save. Any changes you do make on this page, you have to, very important to click the save button. Otherwise, those changes will not be recorded. But if you do hold an event with, if you do move forward with holding an event for the employer who's requested assistance, you can select in progress as you're working with them as the webinar information. If you reach out to Daniel or myself to hold the event, we'll plug in that webinar information here. And once the event's been completed, there's a couple sections that we can fill out. How many attended this virtual job fair event? You can enter the number there. If you, and following up with the employer, if you find out that they hired anybody as a result of the event, you can enter that number here, as well as the industries that they hired in. And then when you do find out that information, this post-event follow-up status, you would check completed. And then, of course, you can save that information as well. And so that's what the event request record looks like. I'll just hit back here. And yeah, we have the other filters here. We covered event status, the post-event follow-up. That would be this column here. And let me just check my notes. I think that is all that I wanted to cover. Yeah, if there are any questions, please feel free to add them in the chat. We'll get those answered. But I think with that, I will turn things over to Daniel. Daniel, you can chime in, see if there's anything I missed, or you can go ahead and talk about planning out an event.
Yeah, thank you, David. So the only thing that I would add is that just be aware that moving forward, as we receive these requests that David went over with you today, I'll be CCing you on those communications so that you are all made aware of where we're at in the planning process with these individual employers. So just know if you're receiving emails from me, you're seeing that, and you're wondering, what is this about? What's going on? If you see that it has to do with virtual job fair or an employer, more than likely it's that employer has requested an event be held in your region. So again, I'm going to CC our point of contact that we have on that communication, so you are all made aware moving forward. We encourage you, obviously, to go ahead and attend that session, and even more so, we encourage you to be proactively involved, obviously, in the planning of the session, so you can kind of see what this process looks like and become more familiarized with it. So yeah, I just wanted to let you all be aware of that, why we were kind of beginning to CC you all in those communications as well. So as David stated earlier, I'm going to go ahead and walk you through kind of, what the single employer, multi-employer virtual job fair planning process looks like. I'm going to actually show you how to get there. So you'll see here, we're on our Illinois WorkNet homepage. You click this partners tab at the top. Redirect you again to our tools, guides, and initiatives. If you scroll down a little bit farther, you'll see the virtual job fair guide. Click on that. You'll see these two sections here at the top about the virtual job fair, plan your VJF. This is the section that you'll want to kind of focus your attention on. And then you'll click right under here, under this icon, plan your virtual job fair event. And then you'll see here, it'll bring up all of the different quick start guides that we have for each of these event formats, if you will. So we'll walk through each of these just so you get a snapshot of what this looks like. So you'll see this first one is VJFs for LWIA's quick start guide. Again, I know David and I put this together to kind of be just a quick reference point for folks that are kind of still new to this tool, still trying to acquaint themselves with the tool and try to, figure out what is the steps in the process, if you will, that I need to be following, to plan this session. So you'll see, again, here, we have complimentary videos for each of these steps here. So we encourage you to, watch those. That'll take you step by step, through the process and help you kind of, again, get a little bit better of a hold or a grasp, if you will, on what each of these stages looks like. I'm not going to go ahead and delve into this too far. Again, we encourage you to read this, obviously, on your own time. If there's event requests that are pending in your region, and this is your first go at it, again, we encourage you to take a look at these pages and just read through this again, to familiarize yourself with what this looks like. Again, we try to make this as seamless and easy to understand as possible. Not only do we break this down kind of into its fundamental parts, but we also, again, have those complimentary videos, as you'll see here, that will, again, just help familiarize you with the process. Once you've done that, and we encourage you, obviously, to start with this as your point number one, you'll see down here, you can then go to whatever type of event format it is that you are seeking to hold. So in this case, most of the events that you're more than likely going to see come to your region are probably going to be single employer events. So we'll go ahead and click on that one first here for you. So you'll see here, we just have a breakdown of single employer events. You'll see here, and this may or may not be familiar to you, but you'll have with assistance or without assistance. Again, this is just a breakdown of what to expect, choosing, once you choose, what type of event format that you want to use moving forward. So if you decide that you're comfortable with the virtual format, you've sat in maybe on our events before, you have seen what the process flow or the show flow looks like, and you feel comfortable moving forward and you want to take a stab at it, you'll take a look at that without assistance header that we have right there. So again, that's just going to break down exactly what'll be expected for you if you do decide that you want to move forward and hold an event on your own. Again, here you'll see employer booth creation, employer booth review and approval. Again, you should have access to that if you do have the VJF admin tool on your page on WorkNet. Again, you'll be responsible for creating an event registration page. If you would like, adding that event calendar entry to the VJF calendar on WorkNet, and we do encourage you to utilize that. You'll be responsible for promoting the VJF event on social media. Again, I know David covered some of the tools and guides that we have available, templates, if you will, that we have available here on the WorkNet VJF assistance pages. You can use those canned VJF posts that we have put together for you to help promote that event on your social media pages. And obviously, when we're talking virtual events, that is key. So cannot stress enough how important social media promotion is in getting these folks to register for the event and also attend the event. You'll also be responsible for providing whatever webinar platform that you'd like to use. So, obviously we like to use Zoom here at workNet, but if you are a Teams person or if you use, WebEx, any other facilitation platform, feel free to use that. We suggest that you also make sure that the employer have presentation materials. You will obviously, in the event that you want to move forward as, the primary planner of the event, you will be the one primarily providing TA and facilitation of the event. So just know you'll kind of be acting as the MC of the event, which is typically either David or my role, when we are holding the events. We also encourage you to record the event if the platform that you're using to facilitate the webinar has that feature. And then we encourage you obviously to add it to the employer booth page. And then any sort of post-event follow-up that you'd like to send to the employer to let them know, how many folks attended. If you received resumes from, job seekers, if you have a recording you'd like to share with them, anything like that, we encourage you to follow up with the employer as well. And then you'll see here the with assistance side that we have here as well for the single employers. Again, this will just break down if you do request assistance from Illinois WorkNet to help facilitate your event. Again, a lot of those things that we just talked about will be facilitated, at least in part, by us. Obviously, we also encourage you, to have an active part in that planning and promoting process as well. So, if we're scheduling social media, we encourage you, if you, run any sort of social media platforms to, share that event across your pages as well, or even share the posts that we're, posting from our account onto your account as well. So if you do not follow Illinois WorkNet on our social media pages, would highly encourage you to do so. Obviously, once any posts go out, you'll be able to see that, and then you can obviously share those to your respective channels or pages. Again, if you do request assistance from us, we'll go ahead and TA the webinar for you. Just an FYI, we do encourage, though, the LWIAs to kind of take an active role in that process as well. So, what we would like to see is folks kind of starting to step up and maybe taking over the Q&A process, kind of acting as the intermediary, if you will, between the employer and the job seeker, and allowing, WorkNet or SIU, if you will, to kind of be the technical facilitator of things. So, we would make sure that the webinar is running smoothly. If any technical issues arise, we'll troubleshoot those in real time. We'll record the session, so on and so forth. But we do encourage you, even with assistance, to kind of act as, again, that intermediary between the employers and the job seekers while on those webinars. And again, as far as post-event follow-up is concerned, we'll send that out. And what I mean by that is we'll send out a post-event registration report, and we'll also send out the recording of the event as well to that employer so they can share across their respective pages. And again, here you'll just see a breakdown. If you do request assistance from the WorkNet staff, we just kind of, lay out the expectations that we hope the LWIA will kind of, take the lead on. Again, just communicate with the employer, letting them know about, the fact that they need to create an Illinois WorkNet account, that they need to create an employer booth page. We would also ask you, since assuming you would have, access to those booths in your region as you are the VJF contact, that you review and approve those employer booths. We also ask that you would obviously follow up with the employer, just checking in and making sure that, if they are going to utilize presentation materials, that they're going to have those available by the time the event goes live. And then again, as you'll see here, just kind of what I covered already during the event. We expect the LWIA staff to kind of provide that opening, closing remarks, facilitate the Q&A, and then share any information about local resources and services that you have available in your region. Again, we already kind of covered that, but to, kind of sum it up into its fundamental parts, we just would like to see LWIAs kind of act as, again, kind of the MC for the event, or the intermediaries between employers and job seekers during the event. So that is single employer. We'll go back to our planning pages here that we have. You'll see here, if you do have a multi-employer request, again, you probably won't have too many of these unless you're kind of in one of the more populated LWIAs, if you will. Nonetheless, we'll go ahead and run through this real quick so you can see what this looks like. So for multi-employer events, again, a lot of this is going to be kind of overlapping from the previous page, so we won't go too in depth here, but you'll see here all the similar things here. So if you go without assistance for a multi-employer event, obviously you'll be expected to, encourage those employers to create employer booths on workNet, review and approve those employer booth entries, registration page, promotion of the event, facilitation, including obviously providing that webinar platform that you'd like to use, making sure employers have presentation materials, providing TA on the webinar, recording the event, conducting the follow-up. And again, same thing here on the other side that we covered with the single employer events. If you request assistance from workNet, again, we'll go ahead and take the lead on the creation of the calendar invites, the registration page, providing Zoom training, facilitating the webinar, obviously providing technical assistance, and then we'll provide post-event follow-up. But again, we do expect you, even with assistance from us, to kind of, again, stay in communication with those employers throughout the planning process, review and approve those employer booth entries, also ensure that they have presentation materials, and then also, again, kind of act as the MC during the event, facilitate Q&A, share local resources and services that you have available in your region, so on and so forth. And lastly, here you will see our legislative events quick start guide. Again, you probably aren't realistically going to see too many of these requests come to you, but if you do, again, we'll kind of go over what the responsibilities are for that. Again, LWIA responsibilities you'll see highlighted here. Again, you'll be expected to kind of work with IDES and the legislative staff to identify, target businesses that you'd like to see take part in the event. You'll want to make sure to communicate with employers. Again, same thing here. Make sure they've got Illinois WorkNet accounts up, make sure they've got employer booths, and then review and approve those booths. Ensure that they have presentation materials. And then again, lastly, just kind of be the MC of the event, if you will. Obviously, also encourage you to share local resources and services that you have available specifically in your region for those job seekers. And then here we break down what our responsibilities will be. Again, we'll facilitate pretty much all of the technical aspects of your event. So it'll be registration page, event calendar invites and reminders for the event. We'll create social media posts, provide Zoom training if necessary, troubleshoot and provide TA on the webinar, and then also provide post-event follow-up. Again, we just encourage you to kind of take an active role in all of these events as much as possible. And again, we'd like to see folks kind of start taking the lead on the events and being, again, kind of the MCs of those events. So you all get more familiarized with the flow and what it's like to hold, virtual job fair events. So that way, moving forward, if you do feel comfortable holding these events without our assistance, obviously you're not just kind of being thrown to the wolves, so to speak. You're familiar with the process, you're comfortable with the show flow, and you know what to expect moving forward. So that is what I have to cover here today. Again, feel free to take a look at each of these quick start guides, if any event requests come through to you, just to get yourself up to speed on what it takes to, plan and hold and execute successfully one of these virtual job fair events. But we do suggest you, again, start with this quick start planning guide, take a look at those videos, and then once you have done so, then go to the respective event format that you'd like to see. And that is all I have. David, I don't know if there's anything else that I omitted that you'd like to add, or anything else that comes to mind that you'd like to cover before we close things out today.
Thank you, Daniel. No, I don't think there's anything else to cover. I'm just open it up to see if there's any questions that anyone on the call has. We can go ahead and answer those now if you have any, either through the chat or feel free to unmute your microphone. All right, well, if there's no questions, we will go ahead and wrap up. Thanks again for joining us this morning. As mentioned, we'll go ahead and add this recording to that partner training materials page of the VJF guide before the end of the day. But again, if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. I'm sure you have our contact information at this point. But with that, I will go ahead and conclude. And thanks again, everybody. And I hope you all have a good rest of your Friday and weekend.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.